Hey everyone, and welcome to Darkcast Interviews. I'm your host, Jonathan Miley. DCI is a long-form interview podcast where we talk to game creators about new and upcoming video games, as well as who they are and what they do behind the scenes. Today, we're talking to Ernani Rocha and Bashar Sada from the studio Turtle Juice about their first title, Fluffy Horde, a game that combines real-time strategy, tower defense, and a ravenous bunny horde. For more info about the game, check out the links in the show notes to this episode. For more info about the show, check out darkstation.com. There you can find the original Darkcast, as well as game reviews, previews, and features. You can also subscribe to the show on iTunes, follow us on Twitter at darkstation_com, find us on Facebook, and email us at podcast@darkstation.com. As always, thank you so much for listening. Now on with the show. Welcome everybody to Darkcast Interviews. I'm Jonathan Miley, and joining me today is Ernani Rocha. Is that how you pronounce your last name?
Yes, nailed it.
Yay! All right, and Bash Saad.
Close enough. That's closer
all right.
than a lot of people would get it. So
okay,
that's fine.
How do you pronounce your last name?
Bashar Sada.
Sada. Okay. Is that right? Sada.
Yeah, close enough.
Yeah. It's close. Okay, we'll just go with Bash. We'll go with Bash.
Yeah,
I can say
go
Bash.
with Bash. Bash sounds way cooler. Go for it.
Well, welcome guys to the show. So glad to have you on. How are you doing?
Good, great. I mean, scary times for us. 2 days in from release, but good as it can be.
Sure.
Actually, it's Monday, 13 hours and 12 minutes.
Now a bit worse than when you first asked the question.
Not that anybody's counting down, but it's 13 hours and 12 minutes. Excellent. All right, well, before we get started talking about the game Fluffy Horde, which is just the trailer for it is amazing, and that'll be in the show notes. People need to check that out, if nothing else, because that's just fun right there. But let's talk a little bit about who you are and kind of what you do. So, starting with Ernani, who are you, and what have you done so far on Fluffy Horde?
All right. So basically, I'm from Brazil. I have been all over the place. I used to live in California for a little while. I live in many different cities in Brazil, and I have a major in advertisement. So I was not into games like work-wise ever. I'm wasn't my thing. But one day I decided to pursue the dream. And slowly but surely it happened. And I guess we will be talking more about this as the interview goes on. And basically I do the levels, I do the production, but over here everything it's very mixed. Bash does the levels as well. We have a level designer that does the level, but he does a little bit of coding, and sometimes I do some of the sound effects. And it isn't like we have separate boxes and you don't go in my box. Bash is in my box all the time. My box smells like Bash. So yeah.
Yeah, I will not neither confirm nor deny being in your nice box. Yeah.
You left your underwear on my box yesterday, Bash.
Oh dear.
See, I told you this interview would do itself.
Okay, speaking of not boxes, not really. But when you're indie and you only have like a couple of people in your team, you can't really afford to be, boxing and like separating things out. Like everybody has to do everything all the time. So, but yeah, I mean, if I should go at what I do, mostly what I do, especially right now, it's just the programming, the implementation of everything. Getting all the systems up for Ernani and Dangus and stuff to just really get in and go in the level design, just giving them as many tools as I can to to have the freedom to do whatever the hell they want with the levels. But yeah, but like when we began, it used to be much less compartmentalized. Like we used to be, everyone doing everything. But nowadays, it's when the deadlines come, everybody has to focus and.
Yes.
Yeah, mostly programming, I guess.
Okay. Less room to fool around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, you get down to kind of that finish line, and you just there's no messing around. You just got to do what you got to do, get the game out the door.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, Ernani, you said that you got your degree in advertising. How did you kind of make that transition from advertising to game making?
Very good. The thing is, I was never really, after a while, I wasn't happy with advertisement. It felt like something that was really soulless. I worked in different agencies around Brazil, and everybody was always miserable. Like the work hours were crazy. The rewards wasn't there. And, it was just a sad place because what we are doing there is basically, spinning the gear of money making, but that's it. There is little joy there. So I kept on questioning myself. It's like, so what is my thing? What is my thing? What is my thing? And games crossed my mind here and there. But it was never a thing that was like, oh man, I'm gonna make it. It's like I'm gonna make a game. And at one point, I came across this article in Gama Sutra that it said something like, in order to have a game studio, you need $150,000. And I was like, fuck that, I don't have that money. So I completely gave up. After reading that, and one day. And I was smoking a little weed, and there was like this old sticker in the window, here's where the conversation gets a little bit mystical. It saying something like, believe in yourself. And then I know it sounds cheesy, but I was like, fuck that article. I'm just going to believe in myself. And then things start happening from there. I put a word out that first of all, I started to code a little bit, to learn to code a little bit. I did a prototype, and then this girl liked it, and then she came in, and then another dude liked it, and then he came in, and after that, we won on prizes over here in Brazil, like against, like big shots from this tiny game. And out of the blue, like this one dude, just based on the pictures that we had out, he sent me a game based on that game I was making. You hear all the time about fan art, but never about game, fan game. This dude sent me a fan game, dude, was Bash.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. That is really cool. I don't think I have heard. I've heard a lot of different stories of how people kind of transition from outside of video games to making video games, and I think you're the first person that was like, I was smoking some weed, and I was just like, damn it, I just need to believe in myself, and that is awesome. I love that.
Yes. I need to get some more weed to accomplish bigger things now. I'm running out of...
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, Bash, how about you? How did you get into the industry?
Well, I mean, I just used to play a lot of games back in high school, so I decided to go into university to study games. And I mean, it's just a fairly standard. Went to university to study games, and I really enjoy games. I just used to play a bunch of Dota, and apparently, I just wanted to play more Dota, and I thought that what you did in Games University was just play a whole bunch of Dota, and that was just all fake advertising. So yeah, that I got. I got into game. Like the moment you start learning programming, like I think a lot of people who want to go into games or like programming in general, they have that barrier to entry that once you cross, everything becomes so much easier. Mm-hmm. And that's basically what happened for me. Is that the first year I got into uni, once that barrier was broken, I started pretty much spending all my time, instead of playing Dota, I was just learning programming. And so yeah, basically in my second year of university, I think, I saw the game that Hernani was working on, and I had a mechanic idea for that game, and I sent him a message, and he didn't reply to me, so I implemented like the mechanic in Unity, and I just sent him the project, and I was like, hey, check it out, it's there, just do it. And yeah, that's basically how we got in contact, and that's like the first time I started doing games professionally.
Nice.
Yeah.
So is Fluffy Horde both of yours first commercial game?
More or less. So this game, yeah. The other one had commercial intents, okay. but the dude who was the other programmer, he died. He died. So yeah. He died. Bad times out of tuberculosis. Wow. Yeah.
Man, that's terrible.
It is, and actually that's the reason why we did Fluffy Horde. Because the vibe to make the game just wasn't there anymore. Because it had so much of the other dude in it, and then there was like this game jam, and then we assembled the team that were doing this other game. It's like, let's try to make something else, and that's what we did. We did Fluffy Horde, and because people really liked it, after the jam was done, tons of positive comments, and, like Bash convinced me to go on with Fluffy Horde, and that's what we did. There was a way to work through the grief of losing him. JJ, it was his name.
Yeah, I mean, like for reference, Hernani's been working on the previous game for about, I think, a year and a half. I want to say. Is that right?
Yeah, around there.
Yeah, and at the time we made the game jam, we didn't really have the intention. We were still kind of trying to continue the previous game, but like he said, the mood was very much like, not great after his he passed away. So we ended up making this game as like a game jam thing, and we really enjoyed like. When we were making, we were kind of joking around, like, oh, yeah, we should just stop with the other game and just, do this instead, as a joke. And the moment we were done with a 2-day game jam, we were like, okay, let's work on it, give it like another week, and then post it online, like as a Flash game. And then we were like, okay, let's give it another month, and then we would put it, again on Newgrounds or something. And the month turned into like 3 months, which turned into like 5 months, which turned into like 6, and now we're like 3 years later. But like it literally, the game has always been, since we kind of made the game jam, has always been like 3 months away from release. As in, we had the intention, but we always just got feature creep. Like, oh man, this is so cool. We should just do this one more thing. And yeah.
Let's play some multiplayer in there.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Well, so you guys are making Fluffy Horde, which is coming out soon or has just recently released, depending on when this podcast goes up. What have you guys spent the last 3 years making?
Well, this is interesting. Right now we are getting some reviews of the game, and it's the blessing and the curse, because nobody in these reviews can tell what a game is. They always start the same way. It's like, oh, guys, this is a hard one for me. I don't know what is the genre of this game, because it has RTS in it, it has tower defense in it, but it also has some puzzle-like mechanics to it. And so here's the thing. We didn't really know where we were going, and there were some very dark times that the game was completely broken. In the early 2016, if I'm not mistaken, it was completely different, because I think we nailed it during the jam, but then we wanted to go a path, and the game talks. I know this sounds like someone who has smoked too much weed, but the game does talk, and he goes like, "Hey, dude, I'm not going there. I'm not going. That's not me. You cannot put me in that dress. That's not me." So that's what the game did. And for 3 months, we tried to put him into that dress, but he wouldn't fit. And by that dress, I'm talking about Proc Gen, Binding of Isaac, and we were like in dark times. Anyhow, so after we decided what the game was, and it was still, it was talking like in a different way. It's like, all right, I'm that, but I also can be that. And by that, this and that, what I mean is that when you go through all the levels, sometimes you feel like you are, in the highest of a Warcraft battle. But in another times, it feels like you are solving a Portal level. And in another time, it feels like you're playing, you're defending yourself against zombies, just like in Plant vs. Zombies. So it has tons of phases to it. And our job feels like answering your question in a short line, our job feels like it was trying to blend, to make everything blend, to make those transitions very smooth, like from one to the other. So it doesn't feel like that you are, going through different games in a very, like hacky way, but it feels like very seamless. It doesn't take you out from the experience. At least that's what we're aiming for.
Long story short, we have no idea what we're making. We were hoping that people would tell us in like a review or something. We're like, this is what your genre is. And then we'd be like, oh yeah, that's obviously what we were making.
Yes, yes.
But like, no one has been helpful so far. Everyone is like, I don't know what this is. And they complain. And like, I have a couple of my friends who are like, this isn't, exactly tower defense, RTS, whatever. And I'm like, okay, what is it? They're like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know either. What do we do?
Okay, well, so for anybody that has no idea what you're talking about when we're talking about the game, kind of what is the core gameplay loop? Like what? I guess it sounds like it changes from moment to moment. But if you took just like 30 seconds or a minute out of the game, kind of like what are you doing?
Okay, I mean the general overarching objective, how Portal has like you have to find the exit and go to the exit. In our case, it's usually, there are like 4 or 5 types of general objectives. For the most part, it's you have to kill all the bunnies in the map, or you have to like escort a unit safely through the map. But I mean, the general, everything pretty much revolves around the bunnies, but the thing is there are so many mechanics, so there's so much going on around that, and that's what kind of defines the puzzles. So, I mean, long story short is you have... It's so hard to describe. The simplest way to say it is that you have to deal with the bunnies. But you have bridges, and the game is all physical. It's very much physics based, and so you can do things like you can fling the bunnies around with bridges, or you can attack them with soldiers, with archers. I'm having a hard time describing it.
It's hard, dude. That's like our weak spot. The thing is, like when those reviewers play, journalists plays it, and that's usually the line. It's really fun, but I don't know how to describe it. So we don't know, dude. Hopefully you will play it and you will help us with it. Because it seems like it's a joke, right? It's like, fuck, dude, those dudes have been making this game for 3 years and they don't know what it is. They don't know how to describe it. But it's hard. It's hard. It's really hard.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, so you kind of described it as, it's got some tower defense elements in it, which usually, you've got some enemies that are marching towards your base or whatever, and you're putting up stuff to either slow them down or to kill them.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I assume so. You're doing that in the game. What kind of stuff are you laying down to stop the bunnies?
There is tons of mechanics. There is, like, for example, like a weird one. We have a time bender, a space bender, which is a magician. So you travel between two dimensions. So you're not really stopping the bunnies, but if in the other dimension there is a pit, maybe you can get a perfect timing and change dimensions in the right time and kill them without the need of using soldiers. And and we also have a dude dressed as a carrot that can entice them to go on the other direction. Yeah. What else, Bash?
I mean, in general, the most simple units we have are like things like soldiers and archers. That every unit has a flag in our game, and essentially what they do is they defend the flag. So if you it's like in Roman times how you had the guys marching the flag, and people, the army would defend the flag, and so that's basically how you control the game. Is you move a unit's flag to a specific spot, and the unit will go to that spot, and if it can, it will fight around that spot. And the general game objective, now that I like remember your question, every round starts with like a pre-game screen where you see the level, but the time isn't passing yet, and you make all your decisions, and so you build your strategy, and then you start executing that strategy. That's the puzzly aspect of it. The tower defense aspect of it is that you have money. You have to you have farms that the bunnies will destroy. They will eat your wheat, so you're not going to be able to farm. And the farms give you gold. And you can use that gold to buy soldiers and other units to defend your field. The farms, or you can defend your windmill. Windmill is an objective, so if you lose all your windmills, you'll lose the round. And the game is very much based on rounds. It's like Angry Birds, where you have like 100 levels, and each individual level has its own objectives and side objectives, like stars. So for example, you can beat the game without losing any carrots, so the bunnies can eat the carrots, or without buying any farms. So the tower defense aspect of it is the fact that you have to set up your field, and you have an economy where you have to trade, invest in gold, in units that can give you gold, and you have units that are that you can use to stop the bunnies from eating your objectives. Yeah.
Very cool. So what's kind of the story behind all of this? Why are hyper breeding bunnies, which website tells me there's like 200 billion of them that are coming after us? What caused this? Why are they attacking us?
All right. So this dude, the shaman, he tried to find a home for his bunnies, and for himself. Just a little space, just a little land, and he went all over the place. He tried to talk to the elves, he tried to talk to the underground people, he tried to talk to the humans, but everybody kept on saying, naughty shit to him. Is like, hey dude, your bunnies smell, you are too ugly, you are not blonde enough. And and he was like, fuck that, like, I will take this by force. And that's how it all started, refugees, so yeah, it's very up to date with our daily life.
Making political statements with
Yes,
shamans and bunnies. I like it.
Yes,
Yeah.
where this is a play on the modern, the modern antagonization of. Go on.
So it sounds like the shaman really got the rough end of the stick here, but we're playing as the people that are defending against the bunnies.
Yes.
So are we playing the villains in this?
It depends on your, your point of view. Hillary or Trump. Who knows?
So it's morally gray. You're on.
Everything is gray. Like everyone hates the the princess, the unit that you have to keep protecting in a lot of levels. Everyone hates that. Like, you very rarely like the people who you control. But
Yeah.
you know, like no one is likable. Everyone is garbage in this world. Okay. And yeah, I mean, you just gotta do what you gotta do.
Like the elves, for example. Like as soon as you buy him, he goes like he's very how can I say he
Holier than thou.
Yeah. He thinks he's the best dude ever. It's like, and like, why am I doing this? You know, like a elf killing bunnies. You know, like I should be defeating giants or something. So you get a little bit of each character on personality, just like in Warcraft when you move your units around. You kind of, all right, so I know these units is lazy. This one is like a warrior, that fearless warrior. But yeah, at the end, that's how you guys say it. It's a very gray area. There, you are not really rooting for either side, because in one hand, you are defending the kingdom, but on the other hand, you are slaughtering bunnies. So it's, yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned we've got multiple different races. We've got humans, elves, and underground. Are these mole people? Are they dwarves? Who are the underground people? Or is that a mystery to be solved?
No, great
Pygmies.
question.
Is it pygmies?
Yeah, they're pygmies. They used to live where the dwarfs are, but now the dwarfs are dead, and the pygmies have arrived.
The dwarves are actually giants in this world?
Yes.
Which is like a whole long story that we didn't end up exploring.
That's in the DLC. It's it'll be
exactly.
You can see it in the background. You can see them walking in the background, but you know.
Awesome. So are the different races just different units that you have to kind of deploy and horde off the bunnies, or are you playing as the different races kind of at different cities and whatnot throughout the games? Is there a story mode, or is it just kind of challenge after challenge?
There is a little bit of story, and in the bubble speeches, in the cinematics after you beat every boss, but it's not story heavy. If you're looking for story heavy, you're looking in the wrong place. I think the best comparison would be Warcraft. Like,
Okay.
you play different, and I'm probably even better would be Red Alert, where you play different levels, and then every level that you play, there is something new. You get to know a little bit more about the story, a new mechanic, and as you progress, there is 4 chapters. Each chapter is one world, so you meet on the world of the races you are playing with. It starts with the humans, and then it goes to the underground, then it goes to the Alandian, that is the elf land, and then at last is the shaman temple. And one thing about the story is that the races, they didn't really like each other. So the shaman was responsible in reuniting them. And sometimes they talk smack to each other because they are not very keen of each other. So once again, gray area. So is the shaman bad, but he united the nations? So yeah, it has a little bit of that in there.
Okay.
I mean, to answer your original question, though, like you fight with all the army. Like it's not like you fight as the elf alone, and then you fight as you're the general commander who controls everything.
Okay.
And they talk smack to each other in voices, but in general they're just one team against the bunnies.
Yes.
Very cool. Very cool. So, obviously you've got the single player that we were just talking about. You guys mentioned that you added multiplayer to the game. Kind of what is that about? What are there multiple modes? Split screen, online? What do we have going on there?
Like the multiplayer is something that we're like developing, and it's still going to be fleshed out with more features as we go. But the general concept is it's an online versus mode, so it's 1v1. So the way it works is, I mean, you've seen the trailer, right? So you have your field. It's like a flat field, and behind it, the enemy has an identical level to your level. And let's say this level has a windmill, and in general you have to protect the windmill. That's your objective. So what I can do is I can use my money either to defend my windmill or to attack, to spawn bunnies on your side of the field, on your field. So I can spawn bunnies on your farms to hurt your economy, or I can spawn bunnies near your windmill to try to destroy your windmill. And you have to choose whether to invest in defense or offense. And yeah, again, it's one of those things where it's a bit hard to describe. But the general, as it is right now, it's a versus mode. We do have a couple of different modes where sometimes you have to escort a princess, and the enemy, has to try to kill, your princess before she gets to the objective.
The cow race.
Yeah, the cow race where we both have cows, and so the general thing about the cow is just afraid of bunnies, so she doesn't move when there are bunnies next to her. And so you have to spawn bunnies, keep bunnies around the enemy's cow, so she doesn't move while protecting your cow from the enemy's bunnies.
And what is the objective of the cow?
To get to the plant that is also...
which plants exactly?
To get to a certain plant that is also, a mother of said cow.
We have this plant. It's called the titty plant.
Okay.
And this plant spills milk in the cow. That's our your objective, to get the cow to get some milk in her mouth. Yeah, that's what it is.
Just human nature, man.
Yeah, human nature.
Nature, you nasty. See, this is the tough humor that I have to deal with. This is not a safe work environment.
Well, this podcast is a safe environment, so if you guys need to talk anything out, I'm here to mediate. I don't know where to go from there. I know
a good segue.
Excellent.
The multiplayer, we have a huge problem with it. It's just being 100% transparent. The thing is, as we talked already, it's very hard to find games like Fluffy Horde. And because we are not really based on tons of convention, it can be tricky to get into it. But it's fairly easy once you are done with the first 3 levels. You get the hang of it quickly. But the thing is, if you go straight to the multiplayer without playing the single player, because there is nothing like that out there, it can be super tricky. For example, if there is a fighting game that is releasing today, and this fighting game, you don't need much, because you already play Street Fighter, you already play Tekken, you already play Mortal Kombat. You know how it plays out. Jump, kick, your usual stuff. Mm-hmm. And now we are in these weird spots where we love the multiplayer. I mean, I personally love playing the multiplayer of Fluffy Horde, and it's tons of fun. But the thing is, you need a certain baggage in order to appreciate it. You need to play a little bit of the single player in order to appreciate it. The YouTubers were all over the single player, and now we are trying to think what is the best strategy to, start on people to get to play the multiplayer. So, and also that is one of the big question marks, because we test a lot of the single player and we were very confident of how, you'd be received, and thank God it's being received well. But the multiplayer, it's just this mystery box. We don't know what's going to happen. We like it, but we don't know if the general public will like it. But if they do, because there's tons of replayability in it, it can really help in sales, and it can really help with coverage, streaming, and so on. But yeah, that's what is keeping me awake at night, how people will receive the multiplayer.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is not like a problem that's really specific to us. It's just,
Sure.
imagine like any kind of game that has a different control scheme. When people get into it, they might be inclined to just go straight for the like if you go straight to the multiplayer, you'll just think it's a garbage game because you don't know what the hell's going on.
Right.
Like and you will think it's yeah. I mean, it's hard because, like you already said, a lot of the people that end up playing it end up hating it at first, but then they are very clear that it's way better than the single player because after they learn what's going on, after they learn what they need to do, they legitimately enjoy it more than the single player because it's very interesting and it's very chess matchy in a way because it has a lot of mechanics that if you can guess what the enemy is gonna do, you can get a big advantage. So yeah, I mean, it's like, how do you teach, like, how do you convince people to take the time to play the single player before going into the multiplayer?
No, I think that the good metaphor for that, like someone just starts to know how to crawl, and now you want to teach them how to ride a bike. Riding bikes is way better than crawling, but yeah, the whole transition is weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed, John, but we are asking for help here.
I like I said, I can be a mediator, but I don't think I have any help to give otherwise. So obviously, the multiplayer is still kind of a big question. Have you guys play tested it with a bunch of people? How have you tried to go about figuring out the multiplayer? Has it just been more of like an internal process of you're just making what you like, or how have you gone about designing multiplayer?
Go on, Bish, go on.
Cool. Like the multiplayer, kind of very much like the single player. It's gone through tons of iterations where we make something that like me and Ronnie probably played the game for like 2,000 hours or something crazy like that. So for us, we like something really challenging. So we ended up making the multiplayer in the beginning something really challenging and obscure that nobody else enjoyed. So we kind of had to keep it and then we would give it to some people and they would test it and we would see what they like about it and what they absolutely do not like about it, and we just take the stuff that they don't like out. But I mean, so yeah, I mean, it hasn't encountered the same amount of testing as the single player because testing the single player is easy. You just send the build to someone and they test it out. With the multiplayer, you need two people, and you need two people who played at the same level. Like if I get somebody to play with me, they might not enjoy it because there isn't the same kind of like I don't know how two people who are new to the game would play against each other because they both there is it's a lot. It's an order of magnitude more complicated. So yeah, but I mean, we it's not only internal testing. Like we have a Discord where we keep with a lot of people who keep helping us out, and we keep inviting them to play games with us and seeing what they like, what they don't like, and we base our decisions on those tests.
Yeah, but the reality is that based on in comparison, test-wise, it was probably 90% on the single player, 10% on the multiplayer. Because here's the thing, the single player, he has one thing that is very different. You have to tailor the level in order to make it so for example, the levels that are puzzle oriented, they need the click, the revelation moments, the moments that you feel like you're a genius, that you can go like, lick my balls, Steve Jobs, I am the smartest man alive. That type of feeling. You know what I'm talking about, right, John? So that we can, like, we make it so, and then when people play it, and you see the sparkles in the eyes, it's like, fuck, I did it. And then, all right, so cool, that's what I wanted. And then there's like checkbox. In the multiplayer, it's a little bit different. Talking about FPS, just like you're talking about Halo earlier. So let's say you're playing dozens of different maps in Halo. If the levels, rather if the maps, they are okay, if they are not on your way, it's not going to be something that you're going to hate or like the game because of that. The levels of the multiplayer is not like our biggest concern because they are good. They are, we believe they don't need that much work, just like the single player levels. Our biggest problem, it's getting people to understand, because we're pretty sure once they understand, they will enjoy it. So yes, and that's why there wasn't this much testing on a multiplayer. Yeah.
I mean, just to expand a little bit further, it's in the multiplayer, the people are the content.
Exactly.
In the single player, you're just playing against the level, and we have full control over what the level is. But in the multiplayer, the player himself is part of the content, and you have to structure it in a way where it's fair and it makes sense, and you can't predict all the outcomes, because how the other player behaves will kind of change completely how your experience is going to be.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, we can we're obviously doing our best to make the multiplayer, because we both feel like the roof for the multiplayer is much harder than the single player. The max possibilities, but the single player we know can at least be good. Yes. The multiplayer can be amazing, but it can also just it's just depending on how the enemy plays. It just might not end up being just as good. And the problem is, every time we test with someone, and now they understand the game, we can't test with them again because they know the game. So we can't yes. You can't show the tutorial to a guy more than once. So it's so hard to keep trying to find new people, and testing it. It's just
he's inviting you to play it, John. He's inviting you to find a buddy of yours, and it's like, hey man, let's play some Fluffy Horde multiplayer.
So I mean, yeah, it's it's an order of magnitude harder.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, last question about the game is not necessarily about the game itself, but you guys are partially funded by Humble Bundle, yes. And that's kind of a new thing. We were talking about it before the show. The game Wizards of Legend was published by them. How has the process been with Humble Bundle, and what all have they kind of allowed you guys to do?
All right. So it was awesome. It was very, very good. They were always there for us, doubts, because at the start of the process, it was it's the first time that we are being published, and it's a first big game, and it was a little bit intimidating, getting money overseas, but they were very patient with us, and it was a smooth sail, and hopefully the game will do very well, and maybe we'll be able to work with them again, because it was, no, I cannot remember of a single time that I was mad at them or that I felt that they were fucking with us. No, it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to even point at something negative. Like we've heard stories from developer friends where where the publishers kind of get into they get they get in the way, as opposed to letting you do the best you can. And one of the best, our biggest concerns that have kind of been that they've just been amazing at is just not trying to mess with the game. They've never they've given us 100 total freedom to do whatever we wanted. I mean, that's how we got into this goofy weird game. Is they never they never flagged anything. They never tried to are you sure about this? They always gave us freedom to to do what we want. They never got in our way. They've always been super supportive about everything all the way through. So
yes. Yes. And the best part is that the being able to do what you love, and Like, even though me and Bash are being, very serious in this interview, maybe more than expected. And that's something that tons of people never get, like they start making a little game but it never grows to a point where they can, like pump up their chest and say, it's like, I am a game developer. That's what I do for a living. And Humble Bundle allowed that for us. That's what we do 24/7. It was awesome. It was a great marriage, just like my marriage with Bash. It was an awesome one as well. I love it.
You have a real wife, You could have just used that as a reference.
Yeah, she's not at home right now. Thank God.
Oh, okay.
Excellent. All right. Well, we like to finish the show off by doing a little session that we call the end game. And these are more personal questions, so each of you get to answer all of them. And the first one is pretty simple. Who's your favorite video game character, whether it's hero, sidekick, or villain? Whoever wants to go first.
GLaDOS, hands down.
Okay.
It's the only right answer.
Nice. I like it.
Oh, damn. You got me there. Hold on, let me think. This is the one that comes to mind. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's a very, very strong one. It's the Isaac from Binding of Isaac.
Okay. Good deal. All right. Moving on, if you could play any video game over again for the first time, so all the feels that you got out of a game for the first time, you don't have to worry about it aging poorly or anything like that. If you could play any game again for the first time again, what would it be?
Portal 2? I feel like there's a good theme here.
I think I would go with an Age of Mythology within a LAN party with my best friend. That'd be the one.
Nice. You don't hear a lot about Age of Mythology these days. You got Age of Empires and all the other ages, but Age of Mythology feels like it was kind of lost to the ages.
Yeah. Do you know another age that you don't hear a lot, which is very now it's getting back steam because of the 3. It's called Age of Wonders. Have you ever heard of Age of Wonders?
That sounds vaguely familiar, but no, I'm not.
Dude,
that's not.
It's awesome. It's the most underrated game ever. It's like one of the best games ever, but I just don't know why people don't care about it.
Yeah, that's always confusing why people don't care about good games. It's bizarre. Yeah. All right, so flipping the do-over game on its head, if you could just forget that a game existed or that you played it, what would it be?
I would go ahead and say Dota 2, but I have like 3,000 hours on Steam on that game, so I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
So are you just saying you want those 3,000 hours back? Is that what
Yes! That's like 90 full days, 24-hour days that I could waste on a different game.
I think I will go with like in the same path that Bash did. And Overwatch was the game that consumed me. It made me really chubby, and I learned a little bit from it, but it wasn't like this major learning experience. It was just me on the couch, on my underwear, not taking a shower for 2 days straight. So yeah. But I loved it, but it just was a waste of time, huge waste of time.
To be clear, Dota 2 is a great game. Like, it's a great game. I
like it. It's a good answer. All right, what is a trend in video games that you really like and wish that you saw more of? Whether it's a mechanic or just a genre or whatever the case may be. What's something in video games that is not prolific enough?
I feel like I'm going to be stealing Nani's answer here, and it's the 1 Hour Life. Have you seen that game? Are you aware of that game?
I've seen Wait, 1 hour life? No, I'm thinking of the game Minute, where you have like a
It's
playing the
pretty
game
close.
at a minute at a time.
It's pretty close. It's similar.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the 1 hour life. I mean, I haven't actually played it yet. I'm kind of waiting until after the release. But like, what it looks like to me, I mean, so the pitch for it is that you live an entire life in an hour, and the moment you start the game, you get born you're another player's baby, and the other player has to take care of you, and until you grow up enough to be able to take care of yourself, and the other player will also die, after his hour is done. I don't know. I watched the trailer and just blew my mind. This is like super fascinating for me. I don't know if it's the implementation as well. I don't know if it's like actually a good game, but the pitch for it just is very good.
So is it a multiplayer where the other player's
Yes.
a real person? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean you're like someone else's baby.
Yeah. Okay.
And once you die, like you leave your mark on the world and you die. You leave. You can't come back to the server. So you can improve the world and you can advance the society that you live in that 1 hour, and then you move on. Like it's, yeah, I highly recommend like watching the trailer. If it's
Interesting.
very interesting.
Okay. Nani?
Cool. Yeah, I was thinking of that. It makes me furious I wasn't the one who created that game.
Yeah.
So mine, I don't know if it's a trend or not, but it's something that I hope to see more. Have you ever played Spelunky, John?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you know how in Spelunky everything connects? Like, for example, you are able to destroy the diamonds, and in every single game, the diamonds are the things you pick it up, and they don't interact with nothing else. But in Spelunky, everything connects to everything else. There is this the system of how can I say, unexpected events because of that, which brings a beauty to the game that I never seen before. People just have conventions on how things are, and they just wing it. They don't care, like I'm gonna give another example. The web in Spelunky. When you go through the web, your character is slower, and just like in any other game. But if you shoot your boomerang in any other game, your boomerang goes right through it. But in Spelunky, your boomerang sticks to the web. So that type of thing, I think, Derek, you did an awesome job. I loved it. And for some reason, people didn't pick it up. I don't remember seeing much of that in other games, and that's something that I think should be explored more.
Okay. That sounds good. I love it when all systems kind of interconnect like that. So yeah, that's definitely cool. I think it's just one of those things where it just takes so much more time to be able to make everything work together with everything else. But it's always a treat when it does.
Yes, totally.
So again, kind of flipping that question on its head, what is a trope that you wish would either just go away entirely or at least be lessened and not be around so much?
I mean, I feel like this is a very stereotypical thing these days. I mean, it's not really a trope that I dislike, but I feel like a battle royale, and not specifically the idea. I love the idea of battle royale. I feel like it's genius that you only need, you have 100 players, but pretty much 50% of them die within 2 minutes and they move on to the next match. I think that's really cool. But I feel like people aren't mixing it up anymore. They're all converging into kind of the same game, where every game kind of takes all the good parts of every other game, and then they end up being all the same. Sure. I mean, I don't know. I don't really have a good answer to that.
No, I feel like that's a problem with a lot of games. Yeah, no, just the homogeny of so many games where so many things just become similar.
I mean, I feel like there's a big opportunity there. It's just, I feel like I just wish people took more risks in that. I mean, maybe there are games taking risks. They're just not as known as the ones who don't. But
sure.
yeah, I don't know.
All right, what about you, Hernani?
I think the idea of in not all right. So there is a path that you can find money on, like for example, like RimWorld. There's a game there. I forgot the name. I think it's School Academy something, which is it's very similar to RimWorld. It's very similar to Prison Architect, which is basically a reskin, and people get those games and you know those successful games, and they just do a reskin of them, which is cool. Like you don't need to do new mechanics. You just change a thing here and there, and there you have it, a new game. I don't know, $30,000, $40,000, and you hadn't to think much. And it's not a trope, but it's more like a behavior, and I hate that. I hate that. You can see in our game that we tried really hard to push the envelope to bring something new, and maybe too new actually. But I think that's what other studios should be trying to do. Like surprise people with new stuff. It kind of revolves around the same thing, but say, it's just boring when, that's why I got off on advertisements, because I didn't want to do the same thing, the same soulless thing over and over again. I want to bring something new. Yesterday I was taking a look at this lecture where this dude was saying that game devs are the new shamans of this era. And I was thinking about that. I was like, all right, cool. I can get behind that. But you kind of lose your shaman powers if you're just copying shit. So, yeah.
But, like, I think a thing that happens with a lot of people after they finish games, which is, it might have, like, we can be all holier than thou now, but who knows what happens once we actually are done with the game. But I mean, it's hard. Like when you first start with the games, at least I can only speak for us. There was a lot of soul. Like a lot of the most creative things in our game have been done in the first year or so, when we were like super pumped about it. But as you get closer to finishing a game, you lose a lot of that, and it's hard to like. It's scary. You kind of want to take a risk again, and. I can tell you it's going to be hard for us in the first few months to go back to that taking a risk and trying something new entirely. Trying something new that you don't know if it's going to work or not. And, yeah, I mean, just, the whole thinking, I don't know.
Don't you think there is tons of people out there that they don't even try? There is no risk.
Yeah, but honestly, I mean, maybe just because of my current mood and, all the pressure that's going on around release, it feels like it's hard to try. Like, trying is easy when you're, when you're kind of out in the right mood. Trying is easy. But if you're, I think just for a lot of developers, after they're done, like, some people that you hear about, like an indie game, the movie and stuff, where they succeed, and then doing the next thing is scary because you have to outdo if you succeeded on your, like, you're taking out to a Prison Architect. I'm just putting myself in the shoes of those developers who just did this super big thing, and now they have to kind of do something that's, that's even bigger than it. And if they took a risk, it might end up not doing well. I don't know.
But I think it goes back to mindset, because you mentioned, in-game the movie, and the very Edmund Macmillan was saying that after he did Super Meat Boy, because he had tons of cash, and he was like in these risk-free environments, and he went on to do these crazy games about a naked baby and surrounded by shits. And one thing that he was sure about it was that he never tried to trump his previous title. And I think that should be the mindset. Like you're not trying to trump anything. You're trying to just like, I don't know, like express yourself. And but I do agree. It is hard.
I can get that. I can get behind that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great aspiration, and I think, I don't know, it just has to do with the video game industry being a part of this world and a money making thing that people survive off of. So like there are people that get blessed and can be like Ed McMillan and just be free to make whatever they want to next. But then somebody, if your first project's not super successful, and then you just need to make something new to make ends meet, that it can become more of a grind. So I don't know. I think it's I think everybody should always try to make something new and not just one up themselves. But at the same time, you've got people that can't do that in a sense. So I think that's one of the great things about the indie market becoming such a kind of being at such a prominent place where it is now, where you've got people that they can get tired of making AAA games and go to the indie space and make something that's a lot less stressful. You don't have to spend 5 years making the game, and then it doesn't have to sell 5 bazillion copies for you just to make ends meet. And then you start making the next thing for 5 years. You can make something in a couple of years. You can, make a modest amount of money that sounds like a lot and actually is for you because you've got a smaller team, and then you can go on to make something new and completely different.
Yeah. I mean, do keep in mind that, we have a lot of expenses. Like Hernani owns 10 cats that he has to feed.
Yeah, he was telling me about those
Did he?
beforehand. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
That's the only thing you talk about. Yes.
Every 15 minutes while we're talking, I don't even know how it didn't happen yet. He's like, oh, there's a cat on the door. Hold up. He has to go and I don't know what he does with his cats. Puts it back into the room.
It was because I was in the kitchen. I was around them, so I'm in the office now. But yeah, 10 cats, a lot of love.
That's funny. That's funny. All right, so next question. If you could try any other profession, no holds barred, no restrictions, no risk, if you could just try anything else, what would you want to do?
I mean, for me, again, not knowing anything about not knowing enough about the field itself, just throwing it out there.
That's what this is for.
Like using machine learning to control robotics, to control robots.
Okay.
Like this is something that I've been fantasizing. I mean, I've even talked to Nani about this. Like something that I've been fantasizing about doing for a very long time now. I feel like, again, I don't really feel like I know enough about these things. I mean, like I know enough about machine learning and robotics, and I kind of have ideas of how to mix them, but I've just never had the time to put it in. And I feel like, especially with the OpenAI, like you hear about, I don't know if you heard about OpenAI, and they did this thing, the robots that play Dota. But some of their, they beat the world champions in Dota 2, which is a very complicated game. But they also do a lot of things, in the physical world, like bringing machine learning to, teach a hand how to like flip a bottle. Like, I feel like there's so much interesting stuff there. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do it, or if it's too hard for me to even get into it. But I feel like that's something where I fantasize about, trying out.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I found my calling, which is making games. I'm 100% unhappy with that. But if for some reason, you cannot make games anymore, you have to do something else.
The UN banned all games.
Yes. Maybe writing scripts or movie director, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of movies, big fan of Tarantino. Since I was a kid, I watched tons of movies. And if that becomes banned as well, and I'm in this parallel universe, that's not a joke. That's not a joke. It's stripper.
I was about to guess porn star.
Yeah. No, that's too nasty. But yeah, stripper. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, but I mean, in the 3 years of known Hernani, he's never I've kind of jumped back and forth in how much I want to do games. He's never that's always been the thing that he's always wanted to do.
Yes.
It's cool to be there.
Okay, so the last question here. You get to the end of your life, and you get to heaven. You find out heaven is actually the Mushroom Kingdom from Mario. What is the first thing that you do?
I'd have a mushroom. I could jump higher.
All right. I like it.
All right, all right, all right. Um, all right, Ride Yoshi, and yeah,
Okay.
Ride Yoshi. Like that. Isn't that everyone's dream to ride Yoshi, fly on Yoshi's
Looks like
back?
a very uncomfortable ride. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it.
And he has a long tongue. Yeah, right.
Oh dear.
Okay, moving on. No. Excellent. Well, guys, thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking about Fluffy Horde. I wish you the best as you finish up the game and get it out there into people's hands. If you could send us out by letting our listeners know where they can go to find out more info about the game and where they can pick it up.
All right. So you can go on our website, fluffyheart.com, and there is our Discord, social media. You can find everything there. You can buy the game over on Steam or Humble Bundle. Everything seems like that we're going to be porting to Switch, but that's not. That is still in the idea field. And also, we are very easy to access. You know, if you can go on Twitter or Facebook and add us, we will talk to you. We are not that rich yet, but be quick because the game is releasing tomorrow, so you never know.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having us. Like this was a lot of fun. It was a good break. This has been stressful times. It's been nice to just talk.
I'm glad. Well, it was great having you guys on the show again, and like I said, I wish you the best as you finish up the game and get it out there.